important concept to think about. We don't care that much about Agile. We actually don't. What we want to do is get teams to high-performing teams. That's it. Right? Our hope is Agile will help along that way. But the real goal is to get teams to high-performing teams. Now, there are multiple what we call team performance models. You guys may be quite familiar with what's called the Tuckman model. The forming, storming, norming, performing.
Oh, yes.
You've heard that one? Yeah. This is a different model, and I like this one a little better. It's called the Drexler-Sibbett team performance model. Now, with the Drexler-Sibbett team performance model, basically what it's saying is the following. As a team gets started, folks, they have unresolved issues. And you need to have certain discussions to resolve these issues. So one of the first things the team need to sort of come to resolution about is, why am I here? Why am I here? Now, once this is resolved, you find that people have purpose. There's a team identity and there's membership. If it's not resolved, you find there's a sense of disorientation, uncertainty, and fear. Does that make sense? Now, we move from that to the second piece, which is, okay, now I know why I'm here. I need to understand, who are you? Who are you? Now, if this is not resolved, we have mistrust. If it's resolved, we have mutual regard and forthrightness. Now, next comes, what are we doing? If it's unresolved, you find skepticism and irrelevant competition. No sense of shared goal. If it's resolved, you have that shared vision and clear integrated goals. Now, the analogy of this model, the reason it looks like this, it's sort of showing you, imagine you're up in the sky, right? Things are all fuzzy. Why am I here? And all that. But all these questions are making it more concrete, all the way till you reach a point of commitment. And that analogy is like a ball hitting the ground and then jumping forth, right? So you can see here, even the diagram, it's all fuzzy, it's out there, right? And it's gaining sort of density, right? All the way until it hits this ground and says, all right, we have commitment, right? How will we do it? So what we're going to do, the next question is basically, how are we going to do it? Not diving into the implementation details, but into the commitment aspect of it, right? So if that's unresolved, you find resistance. If it's resolved, you find decisions are made, people understand what they need to do, and they can move forward. Now, implementation is next. Now, as we start to move forward towards high performance, the next step is have clear implementation plan. Who's going to do what, when, where? If that's unresolved, you find non-alignment and confusion. If it's resolved, you find disciplined execution and excellence. Then we move into high performance. Right? And then, of course, that renewal piece afterwards. Now, a key thing to think about here, and guys, stop looking at the diagram, focus here. Where do teams mostly start? From your experience? Number 5. Do you see how many unresolved things are there? Now, if teams start at 5, what the model says, and I agree with, you can't move to the next step till the stuff before it is resolved. You don't have to resolve it in sequence. That's what I don't like about the model, how it looks like it's sequential. Really isn't. But hey, you got to write a diagram somehow. But number 5 is really about that implementation, and we dive right into that when we really forget about all this. And what we were talking about earlier in the process, that right start, is to help with this. Make sense?
It's not just the start, though. I think the steps now agree. It's not necessarily linear like that. Sometimes those things are done in conjunction, and you do that. Have a tendency to do that more often at the start. But one thing I've become conscious of is people coming in halfway through.
You got
That
it.
you tend to try and plug them in at number 5 or
You
number
can't.
6, and we're forgetting about you've got to actually.
When someone new comes in, almost you want to think of the model restarting. Right? Now, if it's one person coming into a team of 6 or 7, this may be a quicker process. But you have to be conscious to take them through these steps. Like if someone were to walk into the training right now and sit in, we've established so much unspoken dynamic between us, right? That everyone was like, and especially if I say, just sitting in, all right, answer this next question. Wait a minute here. Who are you? Why are you here, right? And how are you going to contribute to the success of this class right now? And listen, we have some working agreements here, okay? So all of these, I mean, you nailed it, right? So keep this in mind. The reason I like this model is it sort of maps a mental model for me around the activities we do in Agile, right? So when we talk about something called team chartering, it usually covers these two. Project chartering will cover this, okay? Our initial planning and release planning will cover this. Our iteration planning should cover this. Inside of the iteration, we should be high performance, and then the retrospective is our form of renewal. So that's why I like it. It maps pretty well to what we're trying to do with iterations. When people think of Agile teams, they think of the team room, right? They think of Agile team rooms right away. And while Agile team rooms are good and everything, again, the team room is not a ceremonial thing. There's a purpose behind it. And it's to create a sense of alignment continuously and collaboration. And so we need to make sure that these team rooms are actually achieving those things. Now, this is an article that was published in the Harvard Business Review. I'm going to give you guys a minute to read it, and then let's talk about it. What are your thoughts around this? You agree? It's interesting because I think a lot of people intuitively or subconsciously don't act upon this, right? They act upon this last piece, that the real-time coaching is where they focus. Because I've seen so many people not spend time on launching team properties. They just dive into them. Right? So, what did you guys get out of it? Let's just make sure we're all aligned on the content here.
Well, I agree with that first statement that you're actually, and it's a difference between people who see themselves as that manager, therefore I have to control and coordinate everything, versus somebody who sees themselves as a facilitator of achieving the outcome for the team. So, be that moving a desk or coaching somebody on how to do something better. Your whole role is about the team achieving, not about you being the leader, being focused on you as the leader.
Yeah.
And in the real world, you know, the leader is the person who does the triaging and applies band-aids to when things don't work perfectly, because of the personalities involved. They're the ones who actually get the best out of the mix of people that you do have.
Yep. What do you guys think over there?
I think Peter's comment about most leaders tend to want to control and coordinate, and I think it's scary for people in that leadership role to actually let that go and let people manage themselves. They are threatened by it.
Yep.
The other thing too is I wondered about, when you're talking leadership here, where's the word facilitating? Because I'm I got the impression that you're looking for facilitation process rather than what
Well-
they refer to here as leadership.
Well, and there is something called facilitative leadership.
Yeah.
Now, I would say facilitation has its place in Agile, and it's not done 100% of the time.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So in that Agile team facilitation course, there's something what's called facilitation or the coaching stance, and you understand when you need. So a typical Agile coach juggles multiple stances, what we call here teaching and mentoring, and here it's coaching and facilitation. So you actually sort of jump between these roles multiple times a day, right? Because as teaching, I'm not content neutral, I'm providing content.
Mm.
Here, I'm providing process. And I'm content neutral. So, a good coach jumps as they see fit.
And do you see that those role characteristics being what are referred to here about leadership?
Yeah, I think here they're talking more in the overall sense as well.
Yeah.
And I would say an Agile coach is a leader.
Thank you.
The word leader suggests you know where you're going, and I think what I've got from the Agile mindset is it's not a fixed scope and there's not fixed requirements. Because
It's not what, sorry?
there's no fixed scope and the features or the requirements aren't
Sure.
fixed, because basically the whole Agile mindset is about being adaptive.
That's it.
So as a leader, the misconception, I think, perhaps comes because people expect the leader actually knows the scope and the features. But in fact, a good leader will recognise, well, it's not fixed, and we have to be adaptive. So because they have the mindset of we need to adapt and adjust, then their role becomes perhaps what you've indicated here. They
Yep.
become a better leader because they're actually able to facilitate the team through a process to progressively learn and discover and adapt. Yeah.
I'll sort of go sort of halfway. I mean, my take on what you've given us so far of it is that the project leader or project manager is the conduit to the corporate governance and planning processes.
Yep.
So they're the ones who actually do have the feature list in their head and the scope carefully drawn in their head, so that they can then go up to the governance level and then say, this is what you signed off 6 months ago, world's changed, further examination, the values over here, we need to amend the scope. You still need a vehicle for communicating change upwards and
So-
doing those things.
So we're talking about this role right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So again, is that the leader or not? See, so I want to move away from trying to identify who the leader is, because I think your point is correct about the role of the project manager. That's what they do, right? And they keep updating the plan and telling the execs and all that kind of stuff. At the same time, if we look generically at the statement that we were looking at here, it says a leader, right? And who puts themselves in a point of leadership at that point needs to understand that one of the strongest things they can do for a team is, number one, help the team create conditions for themselves to be collaborative. And number two, launch them in a way that is proper. And then number three is the day-to-day coaching and mentoring and all that kind of stuff they're doing, right? And that's really where I want to take this, which is if we look at these three sort of things leaders do, right? Creating conditions to foster collaboration between team members, launching the team, and then real-time hands-on day-to-day stuff. These are the percentages that relate to the success of the project ultimately, and these are the ones we want to focus on. And both of these, I believe, could be achieved through these practices, team chartering and project chartering. Okay, so let's talk about team chartering first. So team chartering, the purpose, the essence, the value of it is to establish team norms, right, with the purpose of helping the team lay down the ground rules they need, right, to self-organize and self-govern and move towards becoming a high-performing team. So it's all about what the team needs. Here's typical questions that we engage in as a team as we do team chartering. Who are we? What are our values as a team? And this isn't about just putting words like integrity and honesty and transparency up on a piece of paper and that's it. No, it's really diving in. What does picking integrity actually impact our behaviors with? Right? It's having those deep discussions. How are we going to communicate as a team? Email? Phone? Meetings? How many meetings? Right? We don't discuss these things as we start a team. We just jump into the default understanding of corporate culture. How will we make decisions as a team? Colin is going to make our decisions. Okay, great. He's the boss, so he's going to make our decisions. Or Colin's going to make certain decisions. Technical decisions are going to be handled by David, right? Usability, I mean, we can talk about that. Let's just talk about it up front. How will we handle conflict? How will we run our meetings? Are we all going to show up on time, or is there the casual 5 minutes? And if someone shows up 5 minutes late, what are we going to do? How will we manage our work? Are we going to use a tool? Are we going to use backlogs? Who's going to prioritize? All that. These are all discussions. May take 2 minutes, may take 20 minutes. But I want you to really think about discussing these up front. Think of projects and teams that you've been on. And if they could sit down day one of the project and discuss these things, how would the team dynamics be? How would the project execute? Better or worse? Is this a waste of time? Is this touchy-feely crap up front? See, the problem is, because you deal a lot with engineers and people, right, they look at this stuff and say, can we get to our real work?
Or can we still tie our shoelaces?
Yeah, can we get to our real work? I mean, I got real work to do. You guys tell me what you decide and I'm in.
Yeah, on Peter's question, which the two you discussed before, how do you get through that when you're bringing a new member into a team?
You do one of two things. So we sat down, right? We all sat down for hours and discussed these things. A new member comes in, right? And you got to assess here a little bit, right? One new member coming into a team of 7, the guy's pretty cool, whatever. Listen, here's our working agreement. Do you guys have any questions about it? Think about it and so forth. And here's the thing also, sorry. These aren't static. In our retrospective, which is at the end of every iteration, we discuss these things, right? So you need to start with a baseline. I get that. And it's not like, okay, this is put on a wall, laminated and you know, etched into the wall and that's it. No, these continuously change. And I'll tell you something, my experience. Usually whatever the team comes up with the first time is fake.
Or very challenged. Like recently we had a case where somebody said, we're not here to have fun, we're here to pay to do a job.
Could be, right? And I have a lot to say to that person, but anyway. But my point is, we will revisit these, and the new people coming in need to know where we are today. Now, if 4 new people came into a team of 5, I would recharter. Here's a diagram from an actual one activity in a chartering session. Now, these chartering sessions aren't by sitting down and saying, okay, what are our values? Write down your values. These aren't boring meetings. These are very active meetings. This is why you need actually good facilitators for these meetings. So don't try to decipher this that much, but let me tell you the story behind it. So the story behind it is we had a bunch of flip chart paper on the wall, and this was a fairly big team. So again, these can get pretty complicated. This is again why you need good facilitators. So imagine a wall this big with, you know, flip chart paper on it, and we said, okay, first draw the ecosystem of the project. Who's where, when, right? So they drew that, and then it's like, here's some sticky notes. Put sticky notes on different things that need to be communicated between different people. So they went and they put their sticky notes all there, and then we then took the sticky notes, grouped them up, okay, and then put them on sort of a table where the table said, okay, here's what we're going to communicate, and here's the sort of communication methods we have in the company, all right? Email, IM, phone, meetings, whatever it is, right? Okay, this item, how are you going to communicate it? Now, the first pass around, they saw that everything fit into email, right? And then there was a point where, again, as a facilitator, you just succeeded because you did what we call expose the system to itself. You showed them, right? Yeah, you became the mirror, exactly. You showed them what the reality of the situation as today was. And now you ask them, so what do you want to do about it? And they say, well, let's create this new meeting and we can bundle all these things in it, right? Yeah, this will still have to be by email. How about we create an information radiator to radiate this so anyone going by the team room will just know that, right? The whole point is a conscious discussion about it. That's the whole point. I don't care what they agree upon as long as they agree. Now, I hope you see why the facilitator has to be content neutral. Because imagine if after all this they came with this and you say, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Screw you. We've been working on this for the past, hour. And this is what we want. So, or if someone says an idea, it's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm just going to shut you down. You're like, okay, why am I here? If every idea you're going to tell me good or bad, right? Why am I here? So now you see why they're and this is when they step in the role of that facilitator. But after this meeting, they can step out and hold people accountable to this. That's not a role of a facilitator. You get my point, right? They need to discuss how will we sit, right? This is a team I actually personally coached, okay? And it's a dear team to me because I've learned a lot from it. And this was in the Middle East. This was, oh man, maybe 8-9 years back. Time flies. I mean, it was before I got a Mac. That's how old this is. Anyway, so the team was sitting here, and this guy right here, all he did was he sighed. He's like,
Is it next to you?
yeah, he was sitting next to me, this guy right here. All he did was sigh. So I was the coach, just doing my thing, listening to team dynamics, helping out. Oh. So this guy sighed. The guy in front of him here said, what's up? He said nothing. I said, no, really, what's up? He said, I can't get this thing to work. So the girl beside him heard him and said, well, I did something similar yesterday. All you have to do is do this and this and this. The tester heard them and said, wait, did you guys check on this case? Because what I'm hearing from you guys, that actually could be an error, right? I said, no, we didn't check. Let's check right now. They checked, there the error was. All 4 of them got up, right? Went to a whiteboard, and I'm just looking, I didn't say a word. All 4 of them got up, got to the whiteboard, did some stuff, figured it out, sat down, and I'm like, what just happened? And it was all because they decided as they started, here's where we're going to sit. We're going to sit face to face. And if anyone hears anything, guys, we don't ignore each other. Those are our values. We're here to support each other. So it's a conscious decision. That's my whole point. Another conscious decision, what are we going to do with remote members? How are we going to deal with them? Because almost every team in the world today has remote members. Right? What are you going to do? Are we going to set up a polycom for them? Are we going to check in with them different points in the day? Are they always on? Are they always off? I don't have a preference. All I have is you to discuss it and agree and align. what are we going to radiate? What information will we actually radiate in the room? So you can see here, there's tons of stuff on the wall, right? Is that an information overload, maybe? It depends on the team. This team, I was actually against them putting all this on the wall as their coach, and they convinced me otherwise. This was their entire new workflow. I said, why do you need that on the wall? And they said, it's the most important thing that we need on the wall because we're working on it all the time. So instead of every time opening the PowerPoint to find out what it looks like, here it is right in front of us. And as we discuss with each other, sometimes we don't know exactly which step in the workflow we're talking about. So all I have to do is point. It's saving us time. I was like, I'm going to shut up. Because you're right, I'm wrong. Right? But the point is the team needs to discuss this. Right? So that's chartering. And the point is to gain alignment. Now, that's one type of chartering, which is the team. Now we're going to talk about the project. So the team needs to align as a team. That's the dynamic of the team. How are they going to work together? Now let's talk more about content, which is about the project itself. Now, the word project charter may confuse some people because the project management discipline has a definition of charter, which is this. This is not the charter we are talking about. Our charter is a collaborative kickoff for the project. It's not a document. It's a collaborative kickoff for the entire team to define and align on different aspects of the project. So, which team are we talking about? Value or delivery or both? Both. Both is the answer. We're talking about both teams, value team and delivery team. Cool? Yes? All right. Now, what kind of discussions are we going to have in the project charter? Here are some. What is our vision for this project? Now, how many projects? Oh my God, I've been in so many projects where you ask team members, why are we doing this? I don't know. What are the goals? What are the measures of success? I know my tasks, but I don't know the context. Right? So, if we believe in this notion of knowledge workers need to understand context, then we need to invest in having both there. Now, these can get pretty big meetings. I mean, I've chartered project session, I've done project chartering sessions with up to 120, 130 people. Because we don't just bring the two teams, we bring the entire ecosystem. Now, it needs a lot of facilitation. And it's amazing. It's phenomenal. Because people walk out of that meeting, everyone understanding context. Everyone understands the vision behind this. Not just understands, it's not one way, it's two way. The way we design these chartering sessions is to make sure that everyone participates. Right? So, for example, and I'll show you some examples as we walk through this. An elevator statement for the project, all right, or the product you're building. Here's an example. This is called Jeffrey Moore's elevator statement. You can use it, you can use something else, really doesn't matter. But here's an example for the iPod, for example. For music lovers, right, so that's who the target customer is, music lovers, right, who desire a simple way to listen to and manage their songs. So what is their statement of need? The iPod is a portable digital music player that what? What is the key benefit or reason to buy? That provides intuitive, easy to use controls. Unlike your competition, unlike other MP3 players, what's your differentiating statement? Our product provides seamless integration with a world-class music store, which is iTunes. If everyone were to align on this and understand it, that's huge. Because everyone's making micro decisions every moment of the day. Now, here's another one to get people involved. It's called Design a Box. You guys done this one before? Anyone try this? So this, I've actually tried, these were non-IT people at all. This was a project I was on a number of years back. And it was interesting because this was when I was part of a software development company. So this was our client, okay? And we got this project, and I kept saying, we have to charter, we have to charter. But again, the realities of life said, we get started. Now, I didn't stop nagging to make sure that we get a charter. 3 months after the project started, we got a charter, okay? So now the chartering session comes about. I've been 3 months into this project, and I'm seeing it's going in different directions, right? It's being pulled in different ways by different stakeholders. So we design teams, we give them empty cereal boxes, all right, with paper sort of wrapped up all around, and we give them some markers. These are executives and senior people, and we tell them, imagine that your product is put in a box and sold on a shelf. Design the packaging of that box. So that's a way to get them thinking about what are the key selling points, right? What are the features? What is the description? What is the key selling point for others? So anyway, they started drawing different boxes. And we brought the boxes back at the end of the exercise. And the CEO and one of the investors was there, right? And he sat, he looked at the boxes. They haven't even explained the boxes yet, right? And he looked and was like, which one of these have we been building for the past 3 months? And at that moment, the charter has succeeded, right? The charter succeeded at manifesting the misalignment that's happening and providing a venue for that alignment to be discussed. That's it, right? And they had that discussion and they aligned on what they wanted to build. That's the design a box. One of my favorite activities to do during charting is called a trade-off matrix, right? So the trade-off matrix goes something like this. And let me find a better marker here. So the trade-off matrix says this. So here's the trade-off matrix. You put the different attributes of your project. Now I'm going to take the very simple schedule, scope, cost. I've seen people add quality, maintainability, other things, right? Fixed means cannot change, and only one item can be picked as that. Firm means should not change, and only one item can be picked. And then flexible is more open, n items can be picked. Now, I want you to just listen to these possible configurations. If you have a project that has a fixed cost, fixed schedule, firm scope, and flexible cost, versus another project that has, for example, a fixed cost, a firm scope, and a flexible schedule. Do you see the difference in culture of these projects? Do you see the difference in decision making associated with these projects? The question is, every project goes through trade-offs. Can we align on ours? Let's just align on them. Let's have the tough decision up front, the tough discussion up front, not towards the end of the project when it's too late to really pick. So which one is it? Blah, 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 right? And this isn't an easy discussion. We go back and forth, but that's the right discussion we need to have. And people hearing the discussion, they get context around why that's the case. And once you make a decision, whatever the decision may be, I picked randomly, you already have your risk mitigation strategy. What did we pick? Fixed scope, firm schedule, flexible cost. Great. We're going to hire another outsourcing company and give them the risk. I mean, we have a mitigation approach. Could be a totally different project, totally different approach if you have this. don't care. Or we're going to have to keep the cost steady, finish more or less the scope we decided, and time isn't a factor. At the end, you usually radiate your project charter. Okay? And one of the aspects that you usually include in the project charter is who's on the team and how available are they on the team. And that's usually a fun part to discuss with the team, you can imagine here. So think of this. You bring people up, you write down names, right? My name, and you ask them, how much are you available for this project? And that's usually the funniest, because I have people come up themselves and write, right? And they look at their boss, what should I put there? 50%, but I'm 50% on 3 other projects, right? And you want to expose these problems up front and have a discussion about them. And if you have a key person, say an architect or someone, and they say 10%, well, I need to know which half of which day that is up front so that I can actually build my planning schedule around your time. I get it, you're a busy guy. It's a reality. But is that Monday morning or Thursday afternoon? And I don't like the on-demand. On-demand means catch me if you can. And that's an impediment for a project from day one. I would rather say you're not on the project and escalate and say I need this role on the project than to say that someone's on demand. Because we all know what happens, so why don't we mitigate that risk up front? This is not about I don't know scope or discovery or learning. This is a point. I need you to partake in certain activities, and I don't know when you're going to be there.
On demand also suggests no buy-in.
Not at all. It's just, listen, I was told to be in this meeting, so I'm here and I'm on demand. No. We're creating a team. Now, I'm going to show you a 5-second video. Literally, it's probably 5 seconds. And it will make you dizzy. Because I'm taking a panoramic around the whole room for some odd reason. But, again, the design of these chartering sessions are actually quite an art. So this chartering session, we had around 40 people, and we needed to finish all these items. The vision, the goals, the measure of success, the team availability, the trade-off matrix, all of those in an hour and a half. Right? So the way I did it is we created stations. Each station had different topics, and we created little groups, right? And each group started to fill in the station, and they rotated. So every group got to see all the stations and contribute to it, right? So here's how it looks like. So these are different stations, and every group is standing there. It's a cross-functional. You have business and IT together, and you can see how many people total. And it's just 5 minutes and everyone rotates. 5 minutes and everyone rotates. So they get to visit all the stations, right? Contribute to all the topics. And there is a group that owns the station, so they gather all the inputs from all the other people and report out on it. And then we reach consensus. So again, it's the art of designing these things, and that's facilitation, by the way. That's how this is done.